Good morning, everybody. What is today? It is April 20th, 2023. Ready to kick off the Ask Me Anything. And so, here we go. Oh, my computer's doing something weird. Didn't want to open that. Why did that open? Okay. Man, I tell you what. Good questions, as always. And I had just a terrible night's sleep. Our dog missed his last haircut, so he was a shaggy disaster, and so he had to get trimmed down yesterday. So we get this trim, and I think maybe without his hair, he's feeling nervous or scared or something like that. So he had a terrible night. He was making all kinds of noise in and out of our room, and anyway, had a horrific night's sleep. So hopefully he's good, and then the Sherwood household will get better sleep tonight. But let's go ahead and jump right in to the first question here. Let me just move something here. I'm not happy with how I have my screen set up. That's going to be better. Okay. First most upvoted question is from Patrick S. And as I always say, not me. Great question, by the way, Patrick. Super question. Basically, his question is on box jumps, box step-ups, broad jumps, jumping in general, what's a good scale, modification, and substitution, and all that good stuff, because he listened to Very Not Random episode 105, which, if you haven't, I recommend that you do that, where Adrian and I talked specifically about box jumps and what's the point and all that good stuff. And he had a good observation that, one of the major takeaways of that podcast was jumping's great and jumping's useful, and ideally, you will hold on to jumping in one way, shape, or form for as long as you can and try to preserve that. And we talked about some ways to do that. And one of the things he noticed was that the broad jump wasn't mentioned as a potential alternative to somebody who didn't want to do box jumps, and was there value in that? And the short answer is yes. I don't think I've ever done a podcast on my own or with somebody else where it was completely all-inclusive and we didn't neglect any single potential modification, somewhere in the world. So there's probably something other than broad jumps as well that could be done. But the general theme, which was hopefully planting the knowledge in people's heads as to why the jumping was important, and then that would allow them to make a good decision to preserve that stimulus as best as possible. And I think that's hopefully what happened, because it sparked a good question there in Patrick's head. So, long story short, yes. If, let's say, box jumps are programmed in the workout, and you typically see them as, 24 inches for men, 20 inches for women. And then we'll say, if you can't do that, do some step overs. That's true, but that shouldn't be interpreted as the only two options. Kind of like we always say, education is critical. You're always authorized to scale or modify as needed. You're always authorized to make the best decision possible for where you are in your fitness journey. So the nuance between that would be, let's say for the gentleman, 24-inch box jump, that's a bit much for me. I'm not comfortable with that. That doesn't mean you have to immediately go to step overs. Can you do a 20-inch box jump? Great. Then I would do that for the workout. And the heck with the 24-inch box jumps. You've preserved the stimulus. A 20 inch is appropriate. Good to go. If that's not cool, do you have a shorter box to jump on? An 18, a 16, a 12, a 10, an 8, a 6. I would just ideally keep lowering the height of the box jump until any particular athlete of any skill level finds the height that they can appropriately and safely challenge themselves on during that workout. That would be ideal. All the way down to and including you're just jumping on a 45-pound plate on the ground or something like that. So yes, long story short, preserve the jump for as long as you can, and always feel free to just lower that height and lower that height and lower that height as needed. And just put that in the notes section on the btwb app of what you did. The box step over is there for somebody that potentially, has some sort of fear that they need to overcome, and maybe they're not going to overcome it today. That's something that they need to work on incrementally over the course of weeks or months till they get comfortable jumping. They still get to do something there during the workout, or they've got a bit of a strained calf or something going on where jumping's just not going to be in the cards today, okay, cool, no worries. You can get yourself a step over and you'll be okay. What else did I want to say? Oh, think about, every day we have the LEO, the limited equipment option. And for the limited equipment option, we assume they don't have any gear in any way, shape, or form. And what is the general substitution we'll put for the limited equipment option whenever box jumps come in? It'll be tuck jumps, which are awesome and miserable and effective and 100% preserve the jump and have a big metabolic, hit as well. And so if you didn't have a box at all, you could absolutely do tuck jumps. And the cool thing about tuck jumps is they're kind of self-scaling, right? You can jump really high in the air if you're comfortable with that and explosive, or you jump lower in the air if you're not comfortable. You just jump whatever you can jump. So tuck jumps are a really great way to preserve that stimulus as well. But like I said, I would keep lowering the height and lowering the height and lowering the height. Now, if you do have the opportunity or you want to do a broad jump, there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing the broad jump as well. I mean, put the broad jumps in. If you didn't want to lower the box height, if you wanted a little bit of variance, or if that's just all that you could do, broad jumps are going to be just fine. And you could do the broad jumps either for max distance. Let's say there was 21:15:9. You could do 21 max distance broad jumps in that first round, 15 then 9. Or you could mark out on the ground some sort of a distance of whatever was, again, appropriately challenging for you that you would be able to do repetitively, in a 21:15:9 sort of environment. Maybe that's a 3-foot jump, a 4-foot jump, a 5-foot jump, whatever that happens to be, then you will be totally good to go. Let's see. So yep, you could do standing broad jumps, set the distance, or do max distance. And maybe what would be a good idea, hopefully that's exactly why we have these conversations, to let everybody know, like, this is a great idea, this is what you should do if the box jumps come up. But maybe I can put some text if box jumps come up, just to reiterate this, kind of like we do with push-ups. If push-ups are posted in the workout, there'll usually be a little asterisk next to it that says, like, look, push-ups are what we're trying to do, but maybe you can't do push-ups. That's okay. Let's think about what you could do. You could do wall push-ups, you could do elevated push-ups, you could do knee push-ups, etc., etc. You're all still going to be good to go. And so maybe there could be something like that with, I always try to keep from putting far too much text in there as well, but we could do something with box jumps, which is, there's the box jumps for the workout of the day, but, lower the height as needed, or do broad jumps, or do tuck jumps, and if necessary, you can do step-ups, but it's all good to go. So, yep, good question, and you're always authorized to make the best decision for your fitness journey. And if anybody hasn't, I would recommend you go watch VNR 105 or listen to it. I think you'll enjoy it. All right, next most upvoted question. This is from Jin. So it is about the CrossFit Rap video from many, many years ago. Ah, yes. So how did that video come together? Who came up with the words and all that stuff, etc., blah, blah, blah. Wardrobe. So basically, if memory serves, that CrossFit Rap video, which had myself, Rory, and Miranda in there, that was put together by Heber and Marston, and it was, as should be profoundly obvious to anybody who watches it, not to be taken seriously. None of us thought that we had any talent, and it was just supposed to be a comedy of errors, if you will, but a good comedy to get people to laugh, because humor is the best medicine. So that was basically it. Heber shot it one year during the games, and so whenever I could just run away from the desk, I'd run away from the desk and film a little part, then run back. I was really, really close to not doing it, just because it made me wildly uncomfortable. I mean, that's not my wheelhouse of on-camera actions, behaviors, and activities. But then after some pondering about it, I actually thought to myself, it's probably a good just the fact that it makes me uncomfortable because it's just being so over the top goofy on camera is probably a good reason just for me to do it, just to get out of my comfort zone, out of my wheelhouse, and do that. So I did it, and it was 100% goofy, and people seemed to enjoy it and laugh at it, which was the complete intent of that. So yeah, I think we all came up with our own words, more or less. Next most upvoted question was from Lisa D. Pat, do you log every single workout you do in Beyond the Whiteboard, even workouts like your vacation workout of every minute on the minute, 10 burpees, etc., etc.? Why or why not? Good question. So here's my short answer, which is also my honest answer. No, I do not log every workout that I do on Beyond the Whiteboard. But there's more to the story than that. That's just because, and I don't know why, I'm shockingly forgetful with it. It's always my intention to log every workout. Always my intention. And I'm shocked at how frequently I forget to log my workout. Or I'll have to go back and do it. And I think it's just half the time I finish the workout, stretching my hip flexor on the wall, something like that, looking at the clock, realizing that I need to get back into the house, to get back on the computer and keep working, or I need to head out the door and pick up one of the kids from school, or I need to get back in and do something, or whatever it happens to be. And then I just scramble back in the house, continue on with whatever life's next task is, and then I forget to log something. Instead of doing that and having, a casual 10 minutes to sit around in the gym, stare at my phone and log it, that's when I do my best logging, is when my schedule allows me to do that. But every now and then, which I shouldn't say every now and then, quite often when I got to get back in and get to doing something else, that's when I forget. I forget more frequently than I wish I did. So that's my honest answer there. But I always try. It's always my intention. And I encourage everybody to do it because it's very useful. And I'm always happy when I do. Okay. Next most upvoted question is a fun one from CW CrossFit. Let's see. This is recent Very Not Random with Adrian, where he shared his motorcycle and donut story. What is your favorite donut and why? What a fantastic question. Favorite donut? This is going to be really boring, or maybe it will rally people behind it. My favorite donut, I think I would have to say, is just a plain donut. Just a plain cake donut. That's it. Nothing on it. Now, don't get me wrong. I like a whole host of other ones, but if there was a myriad of donuts available to me and I could pick whichever one I wanted to pick, I'd probably go for the plain donut. I don't know why. It's just that would be my number one choice. And then part two of her question, during my recent Linchpin conversations, you said, this is when we were up on our vacation there in Whistler, that my boys had gone out for ice cream with Emily. What's your favorite ice cream you had on vacation, assuming you joined them at some stage? Believe it or not, I never had any ice cream up there. I was going to go out one night and it didn't work out, so I never had any ice cream, which really bummed me out because there was supposedly like a really world-class ice cream place in like the Whistler Village up there in Canada. The name of it was something like Cows or Moose. It was something cow related. Cows or Moose, one of the two. And every time we'd walk by it, there was a line out the door. And of course, that always had my undivided attention. And so I always wanted to get in there. I think our boys had ice cream every day. I'm not going to lie to you. And if I had to go in there and pick a flavor, man, my favorite ice cream flavor, that's so tough. That's such a tough one because I love ice cream. I would love to start an ice cream company. And I know people might gasp when they say that because it might be considered the polar opposite of fitness. But look, we're looking to have everything in life, right? Fitness and health and longevity and tasty treats. Man, I'd love to have just an ice cream company. It'd be fantastic. I would think probably cookies and cream would be really high on the list, or a mint chip. But the mint chip ice cream, the ice cream has to be green. I don't want a mint chip ice cream where the ice cream is white. That's not okay in my book. So cookies and cream or mint chip ice cream where the ice cream flavor is green. So either one of those would be fantastic. Okay, we've got 2 more upvoted questions here. Let's see. Okay, this one is from Tony. This came from the btwb app, the Linchpin squad there. Tony Y. What's your opinion on measuring heart rate variability on a daily basis? Is it useful? Can it help guide decisions on planning daily exercise intensity? Same question for monitoring resting heart rate. Tony, here's what I'm going to point you towards. You need to listen to 2, and please do this. I think they're 30 minutes each. You need to listen to 2 podcast episodes from E.C. Sinkowski, who's the owner of Optimize Me Nutrition. She has a podcast entitled The Consistency Project. There are 2 podcasts I want you to listen to. One I have here. I can't find the other one. Somebody will post it and help me remember what it is. But the first one that I want you to listen to, again, the name of her podcast is The Consistency Project. And it is from September 22nd, 2021. And it is called On Measuring Recovery to Optimize Performance. So again, The Consistency Project is the name of the podcast. This episode was on September 22nd, 2021, and this particular episode is entitled On Measuring Recovery to Optimize Performance. And she gets into heart rate variability, all that kind of good stuff. And what's great about, there's one other show, and it's within a few episodes before or after that one that I just told you. So scroll up a little bit and scroll down a little bit. Within 3 shows before or after that, there's another one roughly on the same topic. It might be on DOMS and things like that, delayed onset muscle soreness, because that's related to recovery as well. And I think they're very, very useful. What's great about her show is that she actually takes the time to read the studies and find out whether or not what people claim these certain devices or measurements, whether they're useful or not. She reads the studies to find out, is that actually true? Does the data support that? Or is the data being massaged, manipulated, or exaggerated through clever marketing to get you to purchase something that you don't really need to purchase, to swipe your Visa card, or to buy some sort of a wearable that maybe doesn't quite live up to the hype? And now we've got a lot of very fit-looking athletes in CrossFit or the NFL or the major league sports that are probably paid to use that thing, and then everyone sees this amazing athlete wearing it and claiming that they could never live without it, and then they start to use it, and now you're buying it as well. Not to let the cat out of the bag, but I've been around the old strength and conditioning world for quite some time, and I do not own a device to measure that. I do not measure it every day. I've listened to a lot of information on the subject and topic, and all of that has led me to believe that I do not need to spend my money on that. It does not deliver the goods that some clever marketing might think that it does, and everything is fine without it. That's not to say that statement shouldn't be taken to say that there is potentially zero value to it in any way, shape, or form. But I don't believe it provides the mission critical, essential, you've got to have this to get fit and you'll never know your own body without. I think that's wildly inaccurate and untrue. And I also sadly have seen some people go the other way and get so addicted to their wearable or their device or tracking something like that they're just a blind follower to it, and they no longer listen to their body. And I don't think that's a good thing to do as well. I know somebody, as a matter of fact, that had a wearable like that, lost it, broke it, did something like that, but they'd had it for a year or so, and lost it, broke it, but like the next day that they didn't have it, they admitted that they really weren't sure how they should work out that day. And that was one of the oddest, most terrifying, frightening, bizarre statements that I've heard. That somebody became that attached to it that now when they lost their little device, they were just a ship adrift and didn't know how to work out the next day. Now, that might be an extreme example, but my point being, it's easy to get hooked to those things. It's really easy to get hooked and think that you need them in your life. For the truth be told, you probably don't. But listen to that podcast from EC. Find the other one that's within a couple episodes. Listen to those two, and then you make your own informed decision as to the value that you would place on it and whether or not you feel it's something that you should have in your life. Okay, final most upvoted question. This is from Marius M. The old CrossFit line for nutrition: eat meats and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, and no sugar. What do you make of the nuts and seeds part? Does it quite literally mean to eat mixed nuts and seeds, or do you read it as whole grain breads and oats? Should nuts and seeds be a significant part of the diet, seeing as it's mentioned early in the recommendation? What would be the benefits? So I guess the short answer is that no, I do not read it as whole grain breads and oats. I read it literally as mixed nuts and seeds, literally. So that eat meats and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar, that, like so many other things in CrossFit, is a really beautiful sentence, really beautiful, such as CrossFit is constantly varied functional movements at high intensity. That's a beautiful summation of CrossFit. You just described a methodology that we could sit down and literally talk about for hours and hours, and it was summed up in one sentence. That's incredible. That's kind of the same deal with that sentence on nutrition. There's a lot in there, and there's a lot of nuance and a lot of context that is overly simplified, but to a very useful manner in that one sentence right there. And so what that one sentence is generally trying to get most people to do is just to eat real food and avoid processed food. In its simplest intent, that's what's going on there. And the primary ones being, meats and vegetables. And if you're looking for, so it was the vegetables you had to eat meat, there's your protein source, and depending upon the source, you're going to get some fat in there as well. Eat meats and vegetables, well, there's your carbohydrate source as well, and it's going to be really tough to get a tremendous amount of carbohydrates eating vegetables. Nuts and seeds, there's a great protein source as well, and fat, obviously, and carbohydrates. You've got all of those in there. And so you're going to get some extra carbs too, since you didn't get a lot in the vegetables. Some fruit, little starch, and no sugar. And that no sugar was just no refined sugar. And sadly, it's very rare that in an overly rigid, literal translation of something serves you well. Because people will read this and be like, well, it says some fruit. So therefore, fruit must somehow be a villain in this story or evil in this story, and got to stay away from it. Heaven forbid I see you eating an apple. Says some fruit. What are you doing? That's your second apple today. Now you're on a road to chronic disease and obesity. Good luck with that. It's like, well, no. You've taken it to an extreme that wasn't the intent of the statement. The intent of the statement was, if we're just having a real conversation, like, is it easier to, the more dense the food with calories, the easier it's going to be to overeat and maybe have your body composition go in a way that you don't want it to go. Mixed nuts and seeds, as wonderful as they are, if you're just munching on mixed nuts all day long, you're going to get a ton of calories, so you don't want to do that either. But worked into the diet, they're wonderful. If you ate most of the time vegetables, it's going to be really hard to overeat calorically, to get too many carbohydrates and that stuff. If you're eating nothing but pineapple, it's going to be easier to do that. If you're eating nothing but sweet potatoes or regular potatoes or starches, well, it's going to be even easier than had you done it with apples or pineapple or something like that. So it's just supposed to be a useful statement to get you thinking about the density of each food, the macronutrient breakdown of each food, and what's a great path for you to be on, and not to villainize any particular one of those, but if you are looking to villainize anything, it would be the processed food, to stay away from that stuff. That's the general point of that. And again, it's a very short, sweet, and simple statement that would be the lead into a multiple-hour discussion on nutrition if you so desire. And since I had, since I've mentioned it once before, I will say that if you really want to dive into the, the nutrition aspect of anything, that's also what EC from Optimize Me Nutrition does as well. So her her podcast there, The Consistency Project, all about, I don't know what happened to my voice there, all about nutrition all the time. So go ahead and listen to her episodes, and you will get an education on nutrition that will treat you very, very well. So that is the final question for the Ask Me Anything, and which is perfect. Great questions. I hope those helped everybody out. Hope everybody is enjoying their rest day. Keep the good questions coming. I loved the box jump question, because that, to me, it just speaks to why we have such an intelligent community at Linchpin, right? You start to figure things out. You start to have these ideas pop into your head and be like, okay, here's what's going on. Here's the workout. Here's the intended stimulus. Here's when I do this movement. Here's how my body moves. Oh, interesting. Could my body move in this direction? Would that be a good way to modify it as well? Absolutely awesome. Questions like that fill me with pride. They're fantastic. Keep supporting one another. Keep being awesome. It's Thursday. Enjoy your rest day. I'm going to go get myself a second cup of coffee, get the kids out of bed, get them going to school and all that good stuff, and I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.